So yes, again, I'm John. I've been working on this Olmsted hub for, I guess, I don't know, 4 or 5 months at this point in time, but it's slowing down now, thankfully. This is a 400 unit building on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It's right off the park. And let's see, what are some fun facts? It's got 400 units, but they're kind of 2 buildings that are just sandwiched together. So there are 2 separate elevator shafts, 2 separate sets of emergency stairwells. So we basically have to treat them as 2 entirely separate buildings with a joined basement. That's what we've been working on. So there's a single basement rack. There is a network rack on the roof that powers all of our antennas. There's a fiber link going between them. And then we have currently in progress, and why the project has stalled for a little bit, is that we're waiting for a dark fiber lease from, again, Pilot, the donors of the 40 gigabit subscription. They are trying to connect us down to a data center so that we'll have a kind of a hard line link all the way back, and we can get internet that way. So, oh, and then the bottom photo is you can kind of see how there are 2 buildings sandwiched together with a firewall in between them. So, yep. In terms of progress, we were able, I guess I should also probably mention, I've been doing these update presentations for the past few months. So you can go and look at previous presentations on YouTube if you want to see how far we've come so far. But this past month, we had the fiber run in between the basement and the roof, and we got that all buttoned up and in the stairwell and nicely arranged. We also have conduit in place on the outside wall running in between our roof rack and all the antennas up on the roof. So both of those things took a little bit of time. We finished mounting all the antenna masts that we plan on mounting at this site. So the top right photo is of the brackets that the mast is actually going to be clamped down into. And bottom left photo is the progress shot of that actually happening. The photo in the middle is the mast in place with the antennas mounted. And then the photo on the right is, currently working on getting the mast installed. But we have the mast up, the antennas are up, everything is online. We have a connection up to City College. It's node number or network number 7800. That's how this whole building is getting its internet uplink for now until the dark fiber comes online. And then the beauty of the mesh is that it'll actually run in the reverse direction. This will be a better internet link than what City College currently has. So it'll get its internet from here instead. We got our first unit connected as well, which was very exciting. So we have a mix of 1 gigabit and 10 gigabit internet provided in the building with fiber. It's a passive optical network PON system. That's what you'll see Verizon using in a lot of buildings as well. So a couple of these photos are the splitters in each floor's riser box. So we'll basically run 1 fiber to each floor, and then from that splitter box, we'll split it out to enough ports to serve all of the units on that floor. The bottom right photo is just doing a signal check. So you can actually measure the amount of light that's coming down the fiber and make sure that it's a strong enough signal to get service from. And one of the other things that I was very keen on doing on this site is that we don't want to do any splicing. So we also have a fiber network here at Grand Street, but for every single install, you have to drill a hole through the wall and then splice a connector onto the end of it. And that requires a fusion splicer on top of a ladder, and it's kind of precarious and doesn't always succeed, and the cable isn't very strong. So we're trying to do everything with connectors and couplers and kind of make it a little bit easier for everyone to jump in and actually be able to do an install. This was the big news of the past month, was that Pilot Fiber, who we're renting our dark fiber from, they did their point of entry test, basically saying, we're able to provide internet to you. They weren't actually going to charge us anything until they do this work and make sure that they can reliably provide a fiber connection in between the building and the data center. So they came out at 8 p.m. They were done in 60 minutes. It was incredibly fast, but they were able to take a manhole out on the street and pop some fiber in off this reel on the back of their truck and then get connected. They left the actual termination for a day team that actually just finished up today, as far as I'm aware. But it's progressing along, and I think we'll have our dark fiber very, very soon. And then, I guess the last thing was we were just kind of buttoning up all of the random things that we did. So we got some lighting in place on our network rack on the roof. We've got cables managed and nicely run all over the place, and then we got labeling done. So that was another whole day or two spent doing this sort of thing. So what's next? Hopefully in the next couple weeks, we're actually going to have our fiber lease online and we'll begin paying for that. We'll have that 40 gigabit internet linked to all the 400 units in the building. We'll be able to get more people hooked up because they're not going to be sharing a slower link. They'll be sharing the full bandwidth. In July, I'm thinking a side note is that all the fiber we're using, because it's all got connectors on the ends, it all has to be custom ordered. And that takes a month or a month and a half for it to actually arrive. So once we actually make sure that all the trial floor is working okay, we'll go ahead and order everything else. And then in July, go ahead and install that. Maybe August, we'll see. And then later, that antenna that I showed earlier at the bottom, the big radar dish looking thing, that is not a very strong antenna for the 2-mile link in between the City College and this particular site. So we're going to hopefully upgrade it to something a little bit faster. TBD on that. That hasn't really been planned out yet. But yeah, and then there have been a couple dozen people that have helped me throughout the process. So thank you for everyone. It's been wonderful. Questions?
So I believe what part of this project is we're pending the 353, the new data center rollout.
325 Hudson is the new data center. That's correct. Yes.
So the dark fiber is going to 325 Hudson, and then we need to get a link from 325 Hudson, 111 8th.
That's, or something along those lines. I think Zach
like
has a lot of ideas. We had a meeting about this, and there was a conversation to keep both our current data center link alive at 111 8th Avenue. That's a Google data center down in Chelsea area. Then there's also 325 Hudson, which is the only path that the dark fiber can take. So that's where we're going to be connecting to for this building. But yeah, we have no...
So we're still pending on that.
Still pending on that. I haven't heard a word from Zach about that. So hopefully update soon, but we'll see.
Okay.
Because yeah, very shortly we're going to have our dark fiber live and it needs to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yep, we got a question over here.
Just out of curiosity, for the GPON equipment, is that Ubiquiti U fiber? Or?
It's all Ubiquiti stuff. We're using their XGS PON system, which is the 10 gigabit version of the 1 gigabit stuff that we're using here. But we actually can add 1 gigabit modules and 10 gigabit modules into that and support both of them at the same time. So if Mesh member doesn't need 10 gigabit and actually wants Wi-Fi built into their ONT, we can just install that 1 gig thing into their apartment and then they're done.
Oh, nice. Are you running the GPON head-end at like a data center, or is that on site in the building?
GPON is on site. We had this issue with Grand where we were trying to put the optical line terminal, the OLT, in a single building and then run it to other buildings. And there were issues with that because then the fiber has to be running at a specific wavelength and it was getting complicated because you couldn't send plain traffic across that. So we're going to plan on doing the OLT as kind of as close to the apartments as possible and then just normal internet from then on out.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yep. You got another question? Oh, yeah, here, let's go over here first. You can wait, Leiden.
This might be like a lowbrow question, but if somebody wants to help you guys, how much do they need to know of like the infrastructure, the hardware?
I have had so many people, their first time doing stuff for Mesh was this, they just kind of showed up and we went through the site and talked about what was going on and then did some stuff. And then the longer that they kept coming, the more stuff they picked up until they kind of have a really good understanding of what's happening. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but if you come, don't worry about it. We'll teach you on the spot. Yeah. Light, you wanted to?
Yeah, I think to elaborate on that point, I think we've learned as an organization that having each building have its own, like what Verizon, what they do is they have the OLT in the data center and it's distributing out to all the
neighborhoods
to neighborhoods or whatever. What we've learned is that having an OLT in each building means that building is its own individual unit. And that, for instance, if for instance, one of the buildings here, we've had issues where they've cut the fiber between the buildings. So we've had to go to a wireless link between the rooftops. Stuff like that. So if each building has its own OLT, you could do that. OLT. So that's the head end basically for the fiber. That's what's sending the fiber, doing the fiber signal. So what we've learned is, basically if each building has its own OLT, it's a bit more expensive because if you've got 3 buildings, you have to buy 3 OLTs. But that means that one of those buildings can operate independently, which is a lot better for flexibility. And so one of the projects I'm working on right now is the fiber build out for that new building on the corner right there, 165 Broome. So we're doing the same thing there where that building is getting its own fiber OLT and whatnot. Like that building will also be its own. It's going to be connected with fiber to the rest of the complex, but it's going to be its own individual unit as well.
Is there an updated like list of suggested supplies that you need to volunteer?
I don't think you need anything to volunteer. Yeah,
Well, if
literally, you
wanna
could show up empty-handed and you'd be
Okay,
totally
but
fine.
if you wanted to like have your own supplies.
Oh, yeah, if you want, I think
Is there
we
a
have
list?
a wiki where there's a set of recommended materials, but it really depends job to job what you actually end up needing. Many times volunteers will come with a lead installer to do installs on a rooftop, and the lead installer is going to have all the materials you need. But if you want to buy a crimper or a set of gloves or some pliers or something, that it doesn't hurt. But all that information is on our Mesh wiki.
Okay.
Cool. I think we'll end it there. I've got 3 more presentations after this, so awesome. Thanks all.